أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وعلى بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله وعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الشهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Lessons from the life of Nabi Musa alayhi salam has been our ongoing topic. Tonight is lecture number 15. Alhamdulillah, we continue to get through this amazing story of Nabi Musa inside the Quran. A few verses in this chapter, a few verses in that chapter, and together we are traveling through the Quran in this month of the Quran. May Allah continue to bless you and your family, keep you safe, and accept your amal, inshallah. So we have reached a point now where in the story, last night's episode, and I know I keep referring to it as an episode, but I like it, is referring to the very famous golden cow story, and which is in Surah Baqarah, and some say is the reason why it was named Surah Baqarah to begin with. We now get to a point in the story now where, because now for a while now, Fir'aun now is quiet, he's busy, he's kind of leaving Musa the way he is, because he's stuck, he doesn't know what to do, right? If he kills the man, there's a rebellion, there's a revolution. If he continues again to confront him and prove him wrong, he'll be, of course, defeated like he was on the day of the festival. So, they continue now to build their community, Nabi Musa does, and the Bani Israel. The followers are getting more in numbers. The mission is expanding. And now Fir'aun now begins to attempt now to once again handle Musa. So he has a plan. He brings his inner circle in together. Says, look, we can't let these things happen the way they're happening. Musa is getting bigger, and his following is getting bigger. We have to squash this, right? And so they talk about ways to do it. And one thing that Fir'aun says, well, let's resort back to killing their newborn boy so that it doesn't expand. It stays where it is. Haman, remember Haman was his waswasa, his right-hand man, that guy who keeps whispering in his ear, who's caused him so many problems. And you'll see in tonight's episode how many of these problems that come about now in Fir'aun is because of him. He says that's not enough. Killing the newborn boys isn't enough. You need to collect all of them, imprison them, and then in the process weaken Musa's stance. Okay, so go there, get them one by one, all the men, separate them from the families, imprison them, and destroy this mission once and for all. Now, news of Fir'aun's newfound strategy and newfound commitment now gets back to the Bani Israel tribe. These people now, Israelites, who are with Musa. And they begin to complain. They say, look, Musa, we were tormented before you arrived, and now once again we'll be tormented after you arrive. Like, what is this? Like, what is the difference between you now? We're gonna, Pharaoh now is coming back for us again, and that's when Musa, of course, prays to Allah, like to once again, give them a chance. Pray for, the release of the clutches of Pharaoh. Pray for their protection. God then again shows mercy on the Bani Israel tribe. Remember, this is the same tribe in Surah Baqarah. In about the verses of 40 to 50, around that number, Allah says, let me remind you of what I've done for you. And we'll see as we get through the story. And by the way, yes, I've announced that tonight is the last official episode, but I am in talks with the producers for a bonus episode, inshallah, which will air hopefully after tomorrow's Jushan. Okay, so look out for that. There's one bonus episode coming, guys. Okay, but let's get through this episode, and this episode will be a little bit extended. Usually it's about half an hour. We might go to 40 minutes, but I won't cut into Maulana Asad time, I promise. How does Allah now show another favor on the Bani Israel and the Israelites? He then now inflicts 7 different calamities on the people of Egypt and on Pharaoh. How many? 7. 7 different calamities. I don't have time to go through all of them. It's enough to know that the first thing that fell upon the Egyptians and all of Egypt, even the Israelites, were continuous droughts, okay? The lack of rainfall. So the water in the Nile would dry up. They relied heavily for their crops on the water. There was no water. They would go to Pharaoh and say, look, make it rain. You're the God. Right? He says, don't worry. And they reminded him, look, you are the one that said on the day of the festival that the rivers of Egypt run beneath me. They reminded that because you're getting frustrated now. There's been days, there's no water. He says, don't worry. All of this is according to my plan. Okay? Don't worry about it. Okay? You will have your water and a good time. There is my wisdom behind all of this. Meanwhile, of course, he himself is sweating inside. It gets to the point where now he begins to hear the confidence and the himmat and the strength of the people of Egypt. They actually say, look, if you don't bring about rain, we are forced now to believe in a different God. Pharaoh now says, okay, let's calm down. So this is one portion of the story that I really want you guys to understand. It's an incredible portion of the story. Pharaoh now takes them to the bank of the Nile. It's dried up naturally from the drought. He says, you guys go over there on that side, okay? I'll tell you what to do in terms of instructions. We'll get this water again. As they move to the other side of the Nile River, Pharaoh now being alone, he goes behind a bush or behind some sort of obstacle. He gets down on his hands. This is in Bahar, by the way. And again, I have sources, right? Let me know when you want them. He goes on his hands and knees and rubs his cheek against the dirt. Who does? Pharaoh. Against the dirt. Puts his finger in the sky. Incredible moment. In the sky, all by himself, no one to see him. Pharaoh's cheek, his own cheek, in the dirt, up in the sky. He says, Lord, I know that you're the only one that can bring down rain. They think it's me. Okay? He actually asks God to help him bring down the rain for his people. Who does? Pharaoh. Before he could lift his head off of the sand, he could hear the people of Egypt that came with him to the Nile begin to cheer. Why? It began to rain, torrential rainfall. They looked at him, once again restored belief in Pharaoh as their God. I don't know, picturing Pharaoh on the ground, rubbing his cheek on the dirt, looking up, that inner belief now, you can hide it all you want. Eventually it comes out. It reminds me of that man who approaches Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, and he says, how can you prove to me that God exists? Because you're in the middle of the ocean on your boat, severe weather hits, you're about to drown. That one last hope you cling on to for life, that one voice that you think, you know what, there's no way that this voice or this entity won't help me. That last resort is God. Pharaoh's desperate. They've threatened now. We're going to leave your kingdom and go to other gods if you don't get this rain. He then turns to the inner core God that he truly believed in, but his ego, his desire, his arrogance wouldn't let him submit to that God. When things were desperate, he reached down, deep down, actually rubbed his cheek on the dirt, the ultimate sign of a disgraceful slave. And God listened to his du'as, man. God listened to Pharaoh's du'as. Who are you and I? Who are you, the believers, mashallah, in the eyes of Allah, if God could relieve Pharaoh of his du'as? That moment to me was incredible. Okay, but again, the drought would come, the drought will leave. The drought will come, the drought will leave. Okay? The second calamity were hailstorms. Massive hailstorms. Now these calamities, and again, there are some are mentioned in Bahar, some are mentioned in the Quran. We'll go through the verses tonight as well. These are actually also mentioned in the Bible. The Bible refers to others, but the Quran now, according to Hadith and Quran, there are 7 major calamities on the people of Egypt. The second and to the seventh only hit the people of Egypt. The Israelites were denied or were protected from the calamity. The second calamity were hailstorms. Massive hailstorms in Egypt now would continue to just pour down onto the people of Egypt now. To the point where Musa sends a message to Pharaoh, I could end all this. Let the Bani Israel and me and my people go. Let it go. The storm will stop, the storm will end. The storm will stop, the storm will end. People are getting restless in Egypt. What's happening? You're the God, you're the God. So then he makes a verbal agreement with Musa. Says, and he refers to him, hey, Sahir, hey, magician, come here. Right? If you can make all this end, this hailstorm end, right, I'll let your people go. Musa has a dua with Allah and the rain stops. Okay? But Haman now, enter Haman. Oh, Haman, that wicked, wicked Haman, comes and says, what are you doing, Pharaoh? You're going to give a little bit of this freedom to him. He's going to take that freedom and come back and topple you and seize control of Egypt. Don't do it. So what does Pharaoh do? Pharaoh now retreats. Right? Empty promises. Right? He's given relief now. Hailstorm stops. He's given relief now. Think about what you're doing now. I'm giving you momentarily relief through my Lord, Musa says. Right? You hold on to that promise and everything will be gone. He says, sure, no problem. Backtracks on his promise, doesn't keep his promise. The third calamity hits. What's the third calamity? Beetles, locusts. Locusts are like grasshopper-like animals. Okay? So they say that Musa grabbed his staff, pointed to the east, pointed to the west. From every corner of the earth now, these locusts, these grasshoppers attack Egypt, attack their crops, attack their homes, just make life very difficult. Their crops are destroyed, right? Again, Musa says, let my people go, I'll stop this. He said, okay, no problem. He's given relief, he backtracks, Haman in his ear. The next calamity are beetles. Beetles come down onto Egypt, destroyed the crops. Again, let my people go. Again, he goes, yes, sure. Haman says no. He backtracks. A fourth calamity now comes in the form of frogs. God says to Musa, take your staff and strike the Nile and call upon every frog from every corner of anywhere. Frogs now come. Frogs, guys, come in. They begin to attack the city, attack the homes, attack the crops, attack everything. Egypt now is seized by frogs. Frogs. Musa says, you ready to let my people go? He says, yes, I'm ready. Get rid of the frogs. Frogs are gone. Temporary relief. He backtracks again. After frogs, it's blood. The water in the Nile turned into blood. Anytime they would go to get water from the river to drink with or to grow their crops with, they would see blood. Blood. Not the Israelites, only the Egyptians. The Israelites would go to that water would become water for them, pure, beautiful water. But when an Egyptian went for the water, it became blood. Are you ready now? I'm ready now. He backtracks. And then the last one is this plague on the livestock. Okay, destroys the livestock altogether. Okay, that was Pharaoh's most frustrating boiling point. Okay, all these calamities, understanding that, you know what, Musa now with each calamity is gaining more control over me. I'm tired. I'm getting frustrated. So what does he do now? He says, I'm done now. I'm done. Summons Musa to his courtyard. There's his entourage, his boys around him, Pharaoh's, and says that now I'm going to what? I'm going to kill this man, meaning Musa. I'm going to kill him now. I have no choice. Enough is enough. I'm going to slay Musa in front of all you guys. You're going to watch as he pleads and screams out to his Lord, and nothing will happen but the fact that I will slay him. At that moment, Nabi Musa now has a dua. Allah protect me from the one who is unjust. Right? Protect me from the one who has takabbur. Right? And protect him from what he doesn't know that's going to happen to him. All in the Quran now. Okay? So the stage is set now. To the point where the books even say that Pharaoh had his sword in his hand, ready to what? Ready to chop off Musa's head. At that moment, enter who? Enter Ezekiel. Remember Ezekiel? From episode 2 or 3 from the season? You know, sometimes they bring back those characters. You're like, oh man, where was this guy the whole time? He was quiet the entire time. He was that individual, if you remember, that individual that when Musa killed that Egyptian by mistake, and the second Egyptian then realized that Musa killed him, he went to Pharaoh and said, Pharaoh, Musa is the one that killed that Egyptian. Find him, and then we're going to kill him. Ezekiel or Hezekiel was the one that found Musa and said, Musa, leave Egypt. And he ended up going to Midian. That was that individual. I refer to him as what? Mu'min ali Fir'aun, the believer who hid his belief of God inside, who detested Fir'aun, but he was working within Fir'aun. This entire time, from the day of the festival to all these calamities, Hezekiel was quiet. But now he's watching, moments away from being slaughtered. He says to Fir'aun, Fir'aun, you're going to kill a man who claims to be a messenger of God? And who has shown you proof time and time again of his own prophecy, his own prophethood, and the miracle of his Lord? You're going to kill a man like that? There's repercussions. And then very logically he says to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, fine. Let's say he's a liar. Let's say everything he has said so far is a lie. That's going to come back and haunt him. But if he's truthful, then you become the liar. And if you kill a truthful man, then this lie that you're living will come back and haunt you. Okay? The way the books describe Pharaoh's state at that moment, it's almost as if he was kind of like relieved that somebody stopped him. He never wanted to kill Musa. Never wanted to kill Musa. No, way back when, when Musa and Harun first entered the palace of Pharaoh, do you remember that? And he threw down the staff and he showed the white hand. At that moment, he could have killed him, but he didn't. In fact, this whole day of festival idea, for some reason, was planned when Musa could have been killed. But for some reason, he went through so much just to avoid killing Nabi Musa. Even at that moment, he stopped immediately and had a one-on-one talk with Hezekiel. Okay? Based on that conversation, Pharaoh realized that killing him was a mistake. He let him go. He let him go. Okay? Meanwhile, the one event that occurs during this time now, because right now Pharaoh is going crazy. Okay? He's watching calamity after calamity. Now, after these 7 calamities, from the drought to the hailstorm to the beetles to the grasshoppers to the frogs to the blood to everything now, Egypt is pretty much destroyed. Okay? He has a handful of people left around him. Okay, people are just trying to make ends meet. This was Egypt, right? I mean, it was a city of like it was just a very luxurious place for Pharaoh. Everything was destroyed. In the meantime now, who we haven't heard from in a while is Pharaoh's wife, Bibi Asiya. Where has she been this whole time? Again, in this episode, we enter Asiya. Okay? So we heard about Hezekiel. And by the way, Hezekiel now begins his slow but sure tabligh in small groups inside Egypt after this. Because he got a little bit of him. But now for the first time he exposed a little bit of his belief. A little bit. Began now to talk to the Egyptians bit by bit here and there. But where was Bibi Asiya? They say that Pharaoh came home one day, and there's a story about a hairdresser. I don't go down that route, right? There was, and there's conflicting reports here. One report is that after the day of the festival, when the serpent when Musa's serpent swallowed the other snakes, Asiya at that moment when Pharaoh came home, she announced her iman towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not towards Pharaoh. That's one report. Another report is this is the moment now when she's watching Pharaoh go crazy. He's killing people for no reason. There was for example, quickly, Sheikh Rizwan Astur in his book and reports this from Bahar that, there is a hairdresser who would come and style up his daughter's hair, found out that she was a believer in Musa's Lord. He killed her on the spot, inside Bibi Asiya's palace. She sees this and she was, that's it, I'm done. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm done now. I'm done. What's wrong with you? I've always believed in that. He said, you know what? You're as crazy as that slave is that you raised. And she said that he's not a slave. He's a prophet of God. I believe in him. That was the moment that he became so mad with power that he killed Bibi Asiya. This is the moment now where she was tortured and she was shahida. And the way that, it's a very gruesome way that he killed her. I don't want to go down that route. But that's the moment now where she calls out to Allah in Surah Tahrim now, verse 66. A beautiful verse where her dua is very, very famous. And Allah uses it as an example. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَمْرَأَةَ فِرْعَوْنَ. Allah has set forth an example of those who believe of the wife of Pharaoh. إِذْ قَالَتْ رَبِّ ابْنِي لِي بَيْتَكَ عِنْدَكَ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. Oh Allah, please build a bait for me in Jannah عِنْدَكَ, close to you. And free me from Pharaoh and the people. And free me from any sort of people of oppression. Right? At that moment then, as he is torturing her to death, she begins to smile, Bahar says. Because she realizes that now I am just moments away from being in that Jannah that I always wanted. Now, why did Allah use her dua as an example in Surah Tahrim? Because to be surrounded by Fir'aun and Fir'auniyat and not to give in to Fir'aun and Fir'auniyat is enough for us to know that God says she has the himmah to ask for such a beautiful dua that I don't just want heaven, I want a heaven that is beside you. Indaka, close to you, Allah. And the reason why Allah uses that as a verse in the Quran is for you and I. We're surrounded by Fir'auniyat today. For us to now protect our deen and hold on to our iman, not being affected by the Fir'aun in today's world, that means that we also will have the audacity and the hope to ask Allah, I don't want heaven. I want a house in heaven beside you. You're my neighbor in heaven. Okay? And then the next thing that Nabi Musa is asking, that Fir'aun is asking now, is all of the people of Egypt and those Israelites who are still his slaves. There's still some people who haven't followed Musa. I want you to build me the highest of towers. I want to spy what Musa is doing. I want it so high I can see what Musa and his people are doing. Okay? High towers have begun to build. All of Egypt now is consumed with this project. Pharaoh is consumed with this project, and now comes the ideal time. And Allah says, this is the moment now to Musa, you and Harun, take the Israelites and leave Egypt. Leave Egypt in the middle of the night. He's busy building his towers. The people of Egypt are busy building those towers. You are now able to now leave and go towards the promised land. And this is now where I want to inch closer and closer to that moment now of the parting of the sea. And I want to keep that moment for the bonus episode that's going to happen the day after tomorrow. So yes, I was slated to speak to all of you for 16 lectures. So tomorrow night, inshallah, we will dedicate to Imam Mujtaba alayhi salam for his session. Tonight, we will officially end this episode here now, right here. But the bonus episode, the bonus coverage, is that we're going to get not only to the moment of the parting of the sea, but actually what happens and how the sea parts. And at that moment, what are the favors Allah shows the Bani Israel, and the ultimate demise of Pharaoh now occurs, and now they walk towards their new promised land. But all that happens in the bonus episode. Now, when the management decides to air that bonus episode, it's up to them, right? But for tonight now, for now, we're going to officially end this season at this moment now. Pharaoh now is obsessed with Musa. Musa has seen calamity after calamity befall on Egypt. Egypt is a ruins now. He's building these massive towers to overlook. Now the command comes to slowly but surely take your 700,000 Israelites, the books say, and make your way out of Egypt. And they begin now to plan their route out of Egypt. And that route and that path and that journey out of Egypt is not an easy one. We'll save that for the bonus episode, inshallah. Let's come to the verses of the Quran, and then I have some closing remarks for all of you on this story and some advice from a humble friend of yours. So let's go to Surah A'raf. Okay, Surah A'raf. Surah A'raf is the 7th chapter of the Quran, verses 127 to 135. Okay, 127 to 135. Okay, this is now where Fir'aun and his people now begin to think about the fact that, look, we can't let things go the way they're going. We have to revisit the idea of destroying Musa and his people. Okay. So verse number 127 of chapter number 7, so 7, 127. It says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَقَالَ الْمَلَاءُ مِنْ قَوْمِ فِرْعَوْنَ. Right? The chiefs of Fir'aun's people had said, what's going on? Are you going to leave Musa and his people to make mischief in the land? I mean, they're doing what they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger to forsake you and your God. لِيُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَيَذَرَكَ وَآلِهَاتِكَ, your gods. Right? That's when he says, no. What we'll do is we will slay their sons and spare their women, just like we did when Musa was born. And surely we are masters over them. Let's not be fooled. We are still inna فَوْقَهُمْ قَاهِرُونَ. We have power over them still. Okay, and then when news spread to the people, to the followers of Musa, that this is what's going to happen, Pharaoh is now coming after them, they complained to Musa that we are now in the exact same position, again being oppressed by Pharaoh. So before you, after you, with you, without you, we're in the exact same boat. What was the point of all this? Why? I mean, what did you bring to the table? And that's when verse number 28, Musa says to his people, you are to ask Allah now. Ask help from Allah, right? قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ اسْتَعِينُوا بِاللَّهِ وَالصَّبْرِ. Ask Allah for patience. Right? إِنَّ الْأَرْضَ لِلَّهِ يُرِيثُهَا مَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ. Beautiful verse. Surely the land is Allah's, right? He causes such of his servants to inherit it as he pleases. And the end is for those what? وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The end is for those who are pious. This is now your piety is being tested. Up until now, some of them have been a very, very dangerous, a difficult group to work with. Even now, they're complaining. He goes, be patient with your Lord. He's brought you this far. He'll keep, do not lose sight of your taqwa and your taqwa alone. This is what, now, of course, in verse number 129, they start to complain that we have been persecuted before you came to us and since you have come to us. He says, it may be that your Lord will destroy your enemy and make you rulers. Just be patient. It could be, he says. قَالَ عَسَى رَبُّكُمْ أَنْ يُحْلِكُمْ عَدُوَّكُمْ. Maybe he might destroy your enemies. Right? وَيَسْتَخْلِفَاكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. He might make you people who actually inherit this land and make rulers of this land. فَيَنْظُرَ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُونَ. Then he'll see how grateful you are. Right? He'll see how grateful you are. Who knows? Let's be patient. Let's have belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And then that's when these calamities hits. Verses 130, 131, I think 132, they all start to describe one by one these calamities by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And certainly, verse number 130, Surah Al-Araf, and certainly we overtook Fir'aun's people with droughts and the diminishing of their fruits. Why? To remind them, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَذَكَّرُونَ. How much are you going to deny? You're seeing the signs in front of you. The biggest sign is the day of the festival. So, Musa's staff and serpent. Musa's character. This drought, that calamity, everything. But still, you're not mindful. Right? But the problem is, and again, 131 describes the people of Egypt. When good befell upon them, that this is due to us. When evil afflicted them, they attributed to ill luck of Musa and those with him. That this is their magician, their magic. This is them causing problems for us. Nothing that we're doing. Right? Surely their evil fortune is only from Allah, but most of them don't understand that. أَكْثَرِهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. They don't even understand what's going on. They're so oblivious. Verse number 132, and they said, whatever sign you may bring to us to charm us with it, we will not believe in you. This is now Fir'aun and his people telling Musa now, we refuse to believe in your magic. Don't even try all that. Okay. And that's when, in verse number 133, it talks about the various calamities, right? Therefore we sent upon them widespread death. And the locusts and the lice. The lice here is one tradition. Another one is the beetles and the frog and the blood. I described all that already for you guys. Clear signs, they say. But they behaved haughtily. They were just full of themselves. Takabbur, ego. And they were guilty people. How much more signs do you want? And finally, when the plague fell upon them, the last calamity, 134, the plague fell upon them, that's when they said to, oh Musa, fine Musa, pray for us to your Lord. Okay? Now this is Fir'aun now talking. Pray to us for your Lord. As he has promised with you, if you remove the plague from us, we will certainly believe in you and will certainly send you away with the children of Israel. You'll be free to go. Just remove all these calamities. Please stop this plague. Stop all this. Egypt is ruined. I'm done. But the Quran says in verse number 135, the last verses from Surah Al-Araf, when we removed the plague from them till a term which they should attain, lo, they did what? إِذَا هُمْ يُنْكُثُونَ. They broke their promise. They resorted back to their ways. 7 different calamities of monumental proportions. Destroying the city, but still that ego of Fir'aun wouldn't allow him. Being surrounded with the wrong people, Haman being a horrible advisor, continued to convince him that you need to now remain in power and don't give this much power to Musa. Okay. The next set of verses, the last set of verses really for tonight, is from Surah Ghafir. Surah Ghafir is the 40th chapter of the Quran. Let's take a moment, please, all of you with your families, get there. 40th chapter of the Quran. Or use your apps, use the Quran, we'll do whatever you like. Just let's do this together. You've been so patient with me for the past 15 days. I really appreciate it. Surah Ghafir, verses 26 to 29. Just 4 verses, inshallah. And then iltimas dua. This is now where that talk between Fir'aun and his qil, that man of hidden belief that spared Musa once, gave him the inside scoop. Look, they know you killed the Egyptian. They're going to come arrest you and kill you. If I were you, I would leave Egypt. He's back in the story now. Okay? Makes a surprise return. Verse 26 of Surah Ghafir. Surah Ghafir, verse number 26. And Fir'aun said, let me alone now, that I may kill Musa. I'm done. That's it. I've seen everything. I've tried to negotiate, talk, do everything, day of festival. I'm done now. I'm just going to do what I do best and kill the man. Let him call upon his Lord. Right? Let him do that. Okay. I fear that he will change your religion or that he will make mischief to appear in the land. Okay. If things keep going, I'm going to lose everything. From my power to my religion, to your religion, to Egypt in general. The best thing is to kill the man. No one can stop me. Then, of course, Musa now, it says his dua in verse number 27, like I had described to all you guys, right? وَقَالَ مُوسَى إِنِّي عُوذْتُ بِرَبِّي وَرَبِّكُم مِّن كُلِّ مُتَكَبِّرٍ. Oh Allah, I surely take refuge with my Lord and your Lord. Again, he keeps reminding that to Fir'aun. It's your Lord too. It's your Lord too. Right? From every proud one. Right? لَا يُؤْمِنُ بِيَوْمِ الْحِسَابِ. From that proud one who doesn't believe in the day of accountability. Meaning what? You can kill me, but you'll be held accountable. That's when his qil enters the conversation. And look at the way the Quran describes this man in verse 28 of Surah Ghafir. وَقَالَ رَجُلٌ مُؤْمِنٌ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ. A believer amongst the people of Fir'aun. He now speaks out. Okay? And says what? What are you doing? What are you thinking? Will you slay a man because he says, my Lord is Allah? Indeed, he has brought to you clear arguments from your Lord. What more do you want? If the staff and the serpent on the day of the festival wasn't enough, 7 calamities, one by one, he gave you temporary relief from the drought and from the hailstorm and from the beetles and from the frogs. What more do you want? How many more signs do you need? And he says, if he's a liar, it's on him, his lie. He's the one that's going to be affected. But if he's truthful, if he's right, it's you that's going to have a problem. Look what he says. There will befall you some of that which he threatens you with. Surely Allah does not guide him who is extravagant and a liar. The last verse for tonight, again, verse number 29 of Surah Ghafir. O my people, yours is the kingdom this day, being masters in the land. But who will help us against the punishment of Allah if it comes to us? He tells to the people of Fir'aun who are watching this whole tamasha unfold, this whole show unfold, look, right now you have the kingdom. But if Allah's punishment comes down to us, what would happen if Musa didn't pray to Allah for the temporary relief of all of these different calamities? We would have been destroyed. Then Fir'aun says, I do not show you except but that which I see myself, and I do not make you follow any but the right way. Meaning that I'm not going to do this. Okay? I'm not going to do this. And that brings us to a point now where, again, Musa is now sent back to his people. Fir'aun has no idea what to do with him. The only thing he can do at this moment is spy on him. And then this is that window of opportunity for Musa to take his people and leave Egypt. And this journey now out of Egypt, that includes the parting of the sea now, begins. This is where it begins. Okay? Fir'aun's frustration is building. Fir'aun now ends up killing his wife, Asiya, right? One of the 4 great women in Islam. And now he begins, this obsession now to somehow cling on to whatever he has left. Okay? That brings the end to our official 15 lectures of Nabi Musa. Like I said, tomorrow night we will have a dedicated Jashan for Imam Mujtaba, which will not talk about Nabi Musa at all. It'll be an entire speech on our second Imam. What I did want to speak about and mention tonight is the fact that, first of all, I wanted to recognize and identify the amazing work of Sheikh Maulana Asad Jafri on this book. This is a book that I have used as one of my primary sources, along with 3 tafsir and a Farsi version of what's called Qissay Anbiya, the story of the prophets. But this is a very, very good book, God's Emissaries by Sheikh Maulana Asad Jafri. My humble suggestion is that this is a unique book in the sense that he mentions every prophet from Adam all the way to Jesus in this exact form that I had talked about, in a very storytelling form. Very, very, it's chronological, has all the resources, all the sources from the Quran to Bahar to Ahadith, footnotes and everything. He's put an immense amount of effort into this book. And I pray for him and may Allah give him a long life. My humble suggestion is, if possible, for the families that are listening and have benefited, and your feedback has been incredible from LA to Dearborn to Dar es Salaam to Africa to Orlando. Many, many people have reached out about this series. And not because of me, but because they found the words of Allah to be fascinating. It doesn't have to end. It's a very long story. And I knew going in that I'm not going to end the story. In fact, there's still a whole life after Fir'aun with the Bani Israel tribe. My suggestion is that you pick up this book. And the fathers in the audience, you can actually read up on a section or two and then have a little small class with your family. You don't need to be, Ayatollah al-Uzma, Hujjat al-Islam. No, you don't need to. And this is a book that is very beautifully laid out, beautifully written, and he's a good writer. And, it's very, very simple. So my humble suggestion is that don't stop. Once Nabi Musa is done, move on to Nabi Isa, Nabi Hud, Nabi Yusuf, whatever prophet you and your family would like, but go through it as a class. A half an hour discussion. These were half an hour talks that I had with all of you every single night. Very, very quick, very simple, small episodes, right? But it just goes to show you how much beautiful lessons there are laid out there, okay? Now, I at the risk of me plugging any sort of group or anything, this is available as far as I know from many places, including Taqwa Media of our brother Farouk Bandali, who is a member of the New Jersey community. And so, if we can kind of support our own, that would be great. And no, he didn't ask me, of course, to mention that. That's not how Brother Farouk works. But I think it is important that we do this. Let's continue in our own homes respectively. Right? This was a good start, and alhamdulillah, all of you were very patient with me, and I really appreciate that. But let's go ahead and pick up the book, spend the 30, 40, 50 bucks, whatever it is, I don't know how much it is, and you can continue. Finish off the story with your family, and then move on to another prophet. Right? It's just everything is very beautifully laid out. It's a matter of us getting, and this is one of the first efforts I've seen where it is told to you like a storybook. Beautifully laid out with subheadings and his footnotes, and so really, Sheikh Maulana Asad has done a marvelous book on this, and may Allah bless him and increase his tawfiq, inshallah. But I just want to make that point, Tal. It doesn't have to end here, but we can continue inside of our homes. If if the fathers aren't there, grandfathers, grandmothers, single moms, doesn't matter. Half an hour, maybe once a week, twice a week, maybe not every single night, once a week, twice a week, while that josh and that tawfiq and that inspiration is still going, strike while it's hot, inshallah. Otherwise, shaitan comes and says, oh, who has time now for this stuff? Who's going to go buy the book and then read it? You don't need to be a Hausa student or wear the libas. This is actually made for everybody and anybody. Okay? Inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept our qaleel efforts, inshallah, and to understand your words, to understand the message you're trying to send us. May Allah, we ask you to forgive our sins and to allow our families to stand beside the Imam when he comes, inshallah. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.